He freed a little alien girl from slavery. 18 years later, she came back for him, HFY. Elias Rowan had learned long ago that the edge of space was never quiet. The trade outpost called Karan Station floated near a dead moon, its metal skin scarred by decades of careless docking and small battles no one remembered anymore. Ships from dozens of species came and went every day. Some carried food, some carried machines. Some carried things that were never listed on any official record. Elias brought his old cargo ship in slowly, engines humming in protest. The ship was tired just like him. He had patched it together more times than he could count. Still, it flew, and as long as it flew, Elias survived. He was human, which already made life harder in this part of the galaxy. Humans were not feared, not respected, and often ignored. Elias was fine with that. Ignored meant alive. He docked, shut down the engines, and took a deep breath. The air recycled through the station always smelled the same: metal, oil, and something sour beneath it all. While station workers began inspecting his ship, Elias headed inside to wait. He planned to stay only a few hours, fix what he could, and leave before trouble found him. Trouble always did. The main hall was loud with alien voices and flashing signs in many languages. Elias kept his head down and walked toward a small food stall. As he passed a narrow corridor marked restricted cargo, he heard something that made him stop. A sound, soft, broken, a cry. At first he told himself it was nothing. Machines made strange noises. Some aliens sounded like crying even when they laughed, but this was different. This was fear. Elias stood still, listening. There it was again, a child's voice. He looked around. No guards, no cameras he could see. Just a sealed cargo door with old warning symbols scratched over newer ones. "Not my business," Elias muttered to himself. He turned away. After 3 steps, he stopped again. Images from his past pushed into his mind. Burned cities, evacuation ships leaving too late, orders given and orders followed. Times when he had looked away because someone told him it wasn't his job. He exhaled slowly and turned back. The door was locked, but old locks were never as strong as they looked. Elias opened a small panel, crossed 2 wires, and forced the seal. The door slid open with a tired groan. Inside, the lights were dim. Cages lined the walls. Elias froze. Inside the cages were children. Different shapes, different colors, different species, but all small, thin, and terrified. Some huddled together. Others stared at him with empty eyes. One cage, smaller than the rest, held a little alien girl sitting alone. Her skin shimmered pale blue under the weak light. Her eyes glowed softly, silver and deep. She could not have been more than 6 or 7 years old by human standards. She did not scream when she saw him. She simply looked up. Elias felt his chest tighten. "What kind of monsters?" he whispered. A rough voice sounded behind him. "The profitable kind." Humans disappeared, but his eyes drifted back to the little girl. She was watching him closely now, as if waiting. "I can't," Elias said quietly. The guards laughed. "Then you die." He grabbed a loose metal bar from the floor and threw it hard at the light above the guards' heads. The corridor exploded into darkness. Blaster fire lit the air in wild flashes. Elias dove forward, slammed into one guard, and used the other's confusion to his advantage. He did not fight clean. He fought to live. When it was over, both guards lay unconscious. Elias stood shaking, his heart pounding like it wanted to escape his chest. Alarms began to sound. He ran. He opened cages as fast as he could, shouting for the children to move. Some froze, some ran, some cried harder. He knew he could not save them all. Security would arrive any second. The little alien girl remained still in her cage. Elias knelt and forced the lock. When the door opened, she stepped out slowly. She was lighter than she looked when he lifted her into his arms. "Hold on," he said, not knowing if she understood. She wrapped her small arms around his neck. Blaster fire echoed nearby. Elias ran. He took side corridors, maintenance shafts, places only someone used to old ships would think to go. He reached his ship just as station security flooded the docking bay. They fired as he sealed the hatch. The ship shook as shots struck the hull. Come on," Elias whispered as he powered the engines. The old ship roared to life. He launched without clearance, scraping the docking clamps as he tore free. The station guns tried to lock on, but Elias flew like a man with nothing left to lose. Stars stretched into lines as he jumped to hyperspace. Only then did he collapse into the pilot's seat. Silence filled the ship. The little girl sat across from him, watching. Elias finally looked at her properly. She was trembling now that the danger had passed. "You're safe," he said gently. "I won't hurt you." Over the next few days, he kept the ship hidden, running on minimal power. He gave her food, water, and blankets. She learned quickly. She listened more than she spoke. She watched everything. Elias contacted an old network, quiet people who moved refugees and freed slaves through forgotten routes. It took time. It always did. When they finally met at a dead relay station, Elias felt the weight of what he was doing settle fully on him. Once he handed her over, there was no turning back. The galaxy would mark him. The woman who led the network knelt in front of the girl. "We'll protect you," she said softly. The girl looked back at Elias. He knelt too. "They'll take you somewhere safe," he said. "You'll grow up free." His name appeared on bounty lists. His face spread across wanted boards. Elias Rowan flew into the dark, alone again. He told himself it was worth it. He did not know how right he was. 18 years passed like dust carried by solar winds. The galaxy changed, but it did not become kinder. Elias Rowan learned this every morning when he woke up on the frontier world of Greyrock. The planet had thin air, sharp winds, and red soil that stained everything. It was the kind of place people came to when they had nowhere else to go. Elias lived in a small metal shelter near a repair yard. His hair had turned gray, his hands were scarred, and his right leg still hurt from an old crash. His ship rested nearby, grounded and silent, its engines too damaged to fly without parts he could not afford. He worked every day fixing machines for miners and traders. The work was hard, the pay was low, and no one asked questions. That was how he liked it. But the past never stayed buried. His name still existed in old systems. A human who attacked a station. A human who stole property. A criminal. A problem. Sometimes bounty hunters came to Greyrock. When that happened, Elias stayed indoors and waited. Most hunters ignored him. Humans were not worth much anymore. At night, Elias sometimes dreamed of blue light and silver eyes. Far from Greyrock, across many systems, a new power was rising. Alien governments whispered about it with fear and confusion. A growing empire that moved fast but did not burn worlds. Fleets that appeared without warning, defeated enemies with perfect timing, and then left aid behind instead of ruins. At the center of this power was a single figure. She was known as the Starbound Empress. No one knew her true name. She was tall, calm, and terrifyingly focused. Her species had once been scattered, hunted, and enslaved. Now they stood united, strong, and disciplined. The Empress ruled from a living station grown from crystal and metal, orbiting a bright white star. Her throne room was quiet, filled with soft light and the hum of energy. She stood before a large star map, hands clasped behind her back. Her eyes glowed faint silver blue as she studied the shifting lines. A tall advisor stepped forward. "Reports confirm it again," he said. "Human technology has been found in 3 liberation operations." "They were protected," he said, "given shelter, no demands made." Back on Greyrock, Elias finished repairing a mining crawler and wiped oil from his hands. He accepted a small credit chip and turned to leave when a shadow fell across him. 3 figures stood at the edge of the yard, tall, armored, alien. Elias felt the old cold feeling settle in his stomach. One of them spoke. "Elias Rowan." "You are under arrest," the alien continued. "By order of the United Coalition, you will come with us." The engines lifted them into the sky. He stared out the small window, watching Greyrock shrink. "So this is it," he murmured. The journey took days. They did not mistreat him. They fed him. They allowed him to sleep. That made him more uneasy than cruelty would have. Eventually, the transport docked with something massive, a warship. Elias had seen many ships in his life, but this one was different. Smooth lines, silent power. It felt alive. As he was led through the corridors, alien crew members stopped and watched him, not with hatred, not with curiosity, with respect. Elias frowned. "You sure you got the right human?" he asked one guard. The guard did not respond. They brought him into a wide chamber with a high ceiling. Light filtered down from above like starlight through water. At the far end stood a raised platform, a throne. Elias' heart began to beat faster. "This is new," he muttered. The guards removed his restraints and stepped back. The room grew quiet. A door opened behind the throne. She entered. Elias felt his breath catch. She was tall and graceful, her skin a soft blue-white that shimmered in the light. Her eyes glowed silver, calm and sharp. She wore simple robes, but power surrounded her like gravity. She walked forward slowly, every step measured. Elias stared, his mind struggling to connect memory and reality. Those eyes. He dropped to one knee without thinking. The Empress stopped a few steps away from him. "Elias Rowan," she said, her voice steady and clear. "You have traveled far." "I told you," she said quietly, "I would remember. You freed me when the galaxy would not. You taught me that strength without mercy is nothing." Days passed as Elias remained aboard the station, learning of the galaxy he had missed. Slavery networks had been crushed. Systems once feared now stood together, and at the center of it all was the little girl he saved. One evening they stood together before the stars. "I searched for you," she said, "for many years. Because some debts are not paid with words." Elias Rowan stood near a wide window, watching stars drift past. For the first time in many years he was not hiding, he was not running. Still, his body did not know how to relax. Behind him the doors opened softly. She entered without guards, the starbound Empress. She walked to stand beside him, her silver-blue eyes focused on the stars. For a moment neither of them spoke. "You look older than I imagined," she said at last, her voice calm but warm. Elias let out a small breath. "You look taller than I remember." "Arrest, chains, you could have just sent a message." "It never went away," Elias said quietly. "I figured that. A human who broke the rules and survived." "You're not angry." Whispers spread as eyes turned toward him. The Empress stepped forward. "Today," she said, her voice carrying through the hall, "we speak of slavery." She raised her hand and images filled the air. Slave cages, auctions, children in chains. No blood, no exaggeration, just truth. "This human," she said, placing a hand lightly on Elias' shoulder, stood alone and said no. "Your Majesty," he said, his tone sharp, "are you suggesting that humans should be elevated because of one criminal act?" He felt the old fear rise in his chest. Then he remembered a small cage, a small hand on his neck. He stepped forward. "I don't deserve anything," he said simply. His voice was rough but steady. "I didn't free her because she was important. I freed her because she was a child. I just knew that if I walked away, I'd never be able to live with myself." "Let it be known," she said, "that the bounty on Elias Rowan was maintained by those who feared what humans represent. Your Majesty, unauthorized fleets are exiting hyperspace near the station to reclaim what they believe they own. You're letting me walk into that." And when they realized that the human had chosen to stand openly without fear, they began to withdraw, not all at once, slowly, carefully. The message was clear. Some battles could not be won with force. That night Elias stood alone in the quiet halls of the station. The weight of the day pressed down on him. The Empress joined him again. "You could have left," she said. "So could you," he replied. She looked at him with deep respect. "You taught me long ago that running does not end suffering, it only moves it. Not as tools, not as pets, as equals." After the enemy fleets withdrew, messages spread faster than ships ever could. Courts argued. Councils demanded answers. Old powers denied fear while quietly shifting borders and resources. Something had moved and everyone felt it. Elias Rowan felt it too, though in a quieter way. He returned to his old ship, now fully repaired and stronger than it had ever been. The engines purred smoothly. The hull shone like it had when it was new. It felt strange, standing on its deck without alarms, without fear. The Empress visited him there one last time before the council session that would decide the future. "You could stay," she said, "here with us. Or in palaces. Fear can build bridges, sometimes." He sat in his ship, drinking bitter station coffee and watching the stars drift past the viewport. When it ended, the Empress returned. "It is done," she said. The agreement was simple but powerful. A shared task force, open protection for refugee systems, a joint effort to destroy slavery networks, not just punish them. Humans were named as full partners, not clients or tools. For the first time, human colonies were not spoken about as weak edges of space. They were allies. The work that followed was slow and hard. Elias did not lead fleets. He did not command troops. Instead, he flew. He went where the maps were unclear, where signals were weak, where people were afraid to ask for help. Sometimes he carried supplies. Sometimes he carried people. Sometimes he only carried messages that said, "You are not forgotten." Of an empress who did not demand loyalty, only decency. Of choices that mattered. Years passed. Elias aged further. His hair turned white. His steps slowed, but he kept flying. On one small world, a group of freed children gathered near the landing pad as his ship departed. One of them, blue-skinned with silver eyes, stood watching until the ship vanished. She would remember. On the Crystal Station, the Empress ruled wisely. She refused titles of conquest. She refused to expand by force. Her empire grew anyway, built on trust and shared defense. When asked why she favored humans, she always gave the same answer. "They see individuals," she said, "not numbers." He landed on a quiet world with green skies and low gravity, a place with water, open land, and very little traffic. He built a small home near a cliff overlooking a wide valley. The ship rested nearby, powered down but ready. He received visitors sometimes, pilots, messengers, once even a delegation that wanted him to speak at a council. He declined politely. One evening, as twin suns dipped below the horizon, a familiar ship descended from the sky. Elias smiled as it landed. She walked toward him, no guards, no banners, just a traveler. "You chose a good place," she said. "So did you," he replied. They sat together on the cliff, watching the light fade. "The galaxy calls you a legend," she said. He chuckled. "That's how you know it's wrong." Elias watched her ship vanish into the sky just as he had once watched a small girl walk away into safety. He felt peace. When Elias Rowan passed, it was quietly. No alarms, no battles. His ship was found later exactly where it had always rested. The news traveled slowly, then all at once. The Empress ordered no monuments, no statues. Instead, she changed one law across Allied space. Any being who freed another from bondage would be granted sanctuary without question. In human space, new academies taught not only tactics but ethics, not only survival but responsibility. And in forgotten corners of the galaxy, when people spoke of hope, they did not always speak of fleets or empires. Sometimes they spoke of a tired human with an old ship, a man who chose to stop, a man who chose to help. A man who proved that humanity's greatest strength was never its weapons or its reach or its numbers. It was the simple, dangerous ability to care, and the galaxy would never forget it.